guys, so welcome to part 3 of the Transition to Essays PowerPoint. In the first part, we kind of talked about the differences between and similarities between paragraphs and essays and how those paragraphs that you've been doing are going to make up your body paragraphs. We also talked about the ways that the structure of a paragraph and the structure of an essay are similar. In the second part, we started going through that step-by-step process for the approach to how to write an essay, and we talked about how to analyze the prompt and how to do some pre-writing. So now we're going to take those first 2 steps, those analyzing the prompt and pre-writing, and what you've gotten from that, and we're going to work on how you use that to create a thesis statement. Remember, I said the thesis statement is the single most important sentence in your essay because it provides a roadmap for you and the reader, kind of lets the audience or the reader know the argument that you're going to make, summarizes your main points, explains your claim. It does a lot. And that sounds like a lot to try to do in one sentence. So there's a formulaic approach that most students find easy to use. And we'll talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and get started on thesis statements. So what are thesis statements? Well, they function like the topic sentence for the whole essay. So what is the main point of the essay? What is the writer trying to achieve? And what should the reader take away from it? It is normally the last sentence in the introduction. Technically, it can be any sentence in the introduction, but it's really in your best interest to start by putting it at the end of the paragraph until you get a better sense of what you're doing, because that's where the reader expects it, and it's the easiest place to put it. So the main things you'll want to do in your thesis statement are to state the claim, argument, or purpose of the paper and the main points that you're going to make. And it's easiest to write if you follow a structure. Remember that X equals A plus B plus C format that I talked about in the persuasive topic sentences? Yeah, that's going to come up here now. And it's actually really good for you to use for thesis statements. So how do you write a thesis statement? Like, how do we approach this? The first step is to reverse the prompt to create your claim. You should have a lot of practice with this because we've been doing it with the topic sentences all semester. Then you're going to add a word or a phrase to join the claim and the evidence. This functions like the equals sign. Reversing the prompt to create your claim functions like the X in this equation. And then finally, you're going to list your main parts, your main evidence, A, B, and C. And A, B, and C will become your topics for your 3 body paragraphs when you start writing those. So let's look at this in action. Or here's a kind of a different way you can do it. You can start by asking a question. Should schools require students to wear uniforms on a daily basis? That's going to be the question in the prompt. It's the same thing as reversing the prompt. Then create a declaration. That's the same thing as creating a claim. You'll see a lot of teachers use different language to describe the same things. So schools should require students to wear uniforms on a daily basis. That's reversing the prompt. Then list 3 reasons why, and combine to write your thesis statement. So schools should require students wear uniforms on a daily basis due to the fact that students will experience less peer pressure, parents will spend less money on clothing, and schools will see a reduction in violence among students. So if we were to do the X equals A plus B plus C format, your X is schools should require students to wear uniforms on a daily basis. Your equal sign is due to the fact that, and your 3 points, students will experience less peer pressure, that's A, parents will spend less money on clothing is B, and schools will see a reduction in violence among students, C. And you can see that each of these are things that you could provide evidence of and go into more detail about. So they'll be good examples, or they're good main points for the 3 paragraphs and for the thesis statement. So here's another example using a prompt that we've been kind of working with throughout this PowerPoint. So question from the prompt. Do you agree with the mandates to wear masks during the pandemic? Possible points: prevent the spread of COVID-19, less restrictive than other measures, allows some sense of normalcy. You'll remember a very similar slide from part 2, but I wanted to go ahead and repeat it so that you'd have that information right here when we go into the next step. So now we'll reverse the prompt. I agree with the mandates to wear masks during the pandemic. So this is just reversing this. Do you agree with the mandates to wear masks during the pandemic? Then my joining word here is going to be because, and my 3 pieces of evidence are the same as here. They prevent the spread of COVID-19, are less restrictive than other measures, and allow some sense of normalcy. So I've just kind of rephrased these. They help prevent the spread of COVID-19, they are less restrictive than other possible measures, and they allow us to live our daily lives in a somewhat normal way. And you can see you have the X is the reverse the prompt, the claim, the joining word is the equals, and the evidence is A, B, and C. So now I put it all together. Just put it all together in the same order. I agree with the mandates to wear masks during the pandemic. There's my X, because there's my equals. They help prevent the spread of COVID-19. That's my A. Are less restrictive than other possible measures. That's my B. And allow us to live our lives in a somewhat normal way. That's our C. So that's the easiest way that I know of to consistently write a thesis that is excellent and that will outline the main points and does everything that a thesis needs to do without causing a lot of stress on your part and without making it particularly difficult. So you're just going to reverse the prompt to create your claim, add that joining word, and list your 3 reasons why. So then once you have your thesis statement, you'll want to create a rough outline, just kind of to get an idea of what you're going to be doing in the body. And although it might seem like an extra step, trust me, it helps a lot just to kind of get that on paper and to get it organized. So a rough outline doesn't need to have all of the steps in the outline. You really don't need to outline the introduction and the conclusion because you're going to be doing that later. You really just need to focus on the body. So at this point, what you want is you want to write your thesis statement, generally at the top of the page, so that you have it back there to remind you as you're creating everything else. And then you're going to list the topic of your first paragraph and any evidence that you're going to use to support that. The topic of the first paragraph is going to probably correlate to the A in the thesis statement. The topic of the second body paragraph will correlate to the B in the thesis statement. And the topic of the third body paragraph will correlate to the C. And then you just want to list any evidence that you're going to use under that, so you'll have it close by and handy when you actually start writing. And this will help keep you on topic, and it will give you something tangible to do should you get stuck, because getting stuck in writing essays happens a lot. So here's an example, and this does look long, but so thesis statement. It's the thesis statement from the previous slide, so I'm not going to read it again. But body 1, topic of the paragraph is to prevent the spread. This correlates with point A. And people can spread COVID before showing symptoms, and masks prevent those people from spreading the disease. COVID-19 is spread by droplets. Masks prevent droplets from being inhaled or exhaled. So that's some evidence that I might use to expand on point A and create my paragraph. This is going to form the exposition part. And the topic is going to give me something to write for my topic sentence. So if I have this outline, I've really got everything that I need to write the paragraph except the transition sentence. And once I write the paragraph, I'll know what I want to put in my transition sentence. So this makes it a lot easier to actually write it. So in body 2, they're less restrictive than other possible measures, so that will ultimately help me make my topic sentence here. My topic sentence might be something like masks are less restrictive than other possible measures to control the coronavirus. And then here's some ways that masks are less restrictive. They're inexpensive and easy to get. Mandatory quarantines would have long-term consequences, and mandatory vaccines are an even greater invasion of privacy and carry unknown risks. So masks are better than these things, at least in the essay that I'm writing. And finally, my third body paragraph, which correlates to C, is they allow us to maintain some sense of normalcy. We can continue to work and see our friends. The masks will help prevent the collapse of the economy because people can continue to work and see their friends. The masks help to prevent increased deaths or the collapse of the healthcare system as a result of, exponential increasing sickness. So here's some reasons, that I could use for my body paragraph 3. And so you can see at this point, I'm not actually writing the essay. I'm just getting the meat of it down. So I'm getting what I need to be able to write it. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it to actually draft my essay. Which brings us to the next step, which is drafting. So the next step is to write the 3 body paragraphs. These will follow the same format that you've been using for paragraphs thus far. So you're going to use your topic sentence. You're going to use the information from the outline to create your exposition and evidence, and then you're going to add a transition sentence onto the end of it. I didn't go through an example because writing an example essay is very challenging to do in PowerPoint. As you can imagine, it's a lot of slides. And by this point, you really should know how to write the body paragraph, so we don't actually need to go into that at this stage. But if you do want to see examples, then just let me know, shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to find one for you or create one for you. So we will stop here, and then we're going to start talking about the introduction and the conclusion and what happens with those. So I will be right back with the next part of this.